welcome to Crimson Castle Games presents Wednesday Night Magic here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My name is Dustin Gilliland. I'm here alongside Caleb Krotz. We're going to be broadcasting live for 3 rounds of standard Magic the Gathering action. All of this is leading up to our PTQ on April 19th that you guys can feel free to join us. You can pre-register online at www.crimsoncastlegames.com and look for the PTQ registration icon. There's weird things happening on my screen.
We have it all hooked up. You can register for the PTQ if you'd like us on Facebook. Regularly, we'll be posting that link in case you can't find it.
So our first matchup of the night is going to be Lee J with red green versus Will M with red white burn. So it should be
a pretty
matchup.
Pretty fast, pretty aggro. Assuming the red green list is red green monsters, which knowing Lee, it could be a little bit different. He tends to like to play some of the bigger creatures.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if this list we might see a bit more Arbor Colossus than Stormbreath Dragon going on.
Absolutely. He's more of a brewer, so this should be something a little different than what you would see in most standard events, but should be exciting. And Will, not real sure what his deck is going to look like, but it should be pretty good.
Looks like it's another really hyper aggressive red white burn deck. And as long as Lee can withstand that early onslaught, I think this matchup is probably favored for him. But I don't know. It could be really close. Red white burn can have some really, really explosive starts.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be up to Lee to withstand the early pressure, and then we'll see how he handles the rest of the game.
So Lee is on the play. Looks like both players have kept their opening hands as well. All right, so Lee starts with a forest and passes the turn. And Will leads on a Blood Crypt. I wonder why that's splashing. Let's take a look at that sideboard real quick.
Sylvan Caryatid from Lee.
Be interested to see what he splashes up this Blood Crypt. It could just be to make casting Boros Reckoner a little bit easier, or maybe he's playing them just for fun. He can also use it to pay for Extort. He has some blind obediences in his sideboard, so it's possible that he's just searching for some more ways to activate that beyond the white mana that he might already be straining to cast blind obedience. He's adding 4 mana to his mana pool to cast Xenagos the Reveler. Alrighty, and it looks like Lee is making a Satyr token. And he's going to get in there for 2.
Getting in there for 2.
Alright, so not the most explosive of starts for Will, to be sure. It's not looking good. I do see a Searing Blood in his hand, though, so looks like we might be able to just go ahead and deal with this Xenagos. We'll see if that's the route he chooses to take. No, we're going with Chandra's Phoenix.
And also getting in there for 2. Now, getting aggressive here when you're on the draw and you're behind in the board state. Not sure if that's the way I would go with this.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I agree with that play either. And he attacked him. He's ignoring Xenagos. All right, this is an interesting turn of events. So that means this turn Lee can generate 1, 2, 3, 7 mana. Ooh. This could be a very interesting turn for Lee. It looks like he's trying to figure out what his best course of action is going to be. I think he's trying to play a few more green creatures before. Yeah, he's going to play one more green creature to make Nykthos, I guess, break even.
Voyaging Satyr, which is going to be really good if he decides to go next turn for the Nykthos activations.
I'd be very surprised if that Voyaging Satyr lives. That card screams, kill me as soon as you can, especially when your opponent has a Nykthos in play.
And he shifts the turn with mana open. Over to Will, now with 4 mana in play.
So he plays a Plains for turn. So this mana's fine. I'm still waiting to see what the Blood Crypt is for.
Oh, it's for.
Oh, does he have Toil and Trouble?
Toil and Trouble.
Ah, there we go.
I just saw it in his hand there.
All right. Alright, yeah, so that's reasonable, being able to cast both halves of that when
Right.
you need to. Or
Yeah.
just randomly being able to draw 2 cards for yourself. Makes that card a bit better of a top deck in the late game.
And it can obviously go over the top with them drawing 2 cards and then taking a bunch of damage too. So.
Oh. That's Tarek, Blade of the Legion. It's a card I haven't seen in a while. Tarek. Tajik, Blade of the Legion. Sorry, one too many games of League of Legends.
Passes the turn over to Lee, and Lee now has a bunch of mana available to him this turn. Not sure if he has anything he can really do with it. Looking at his hand, it looks like he has a Ghor-Clan Rampager, perhaps. He's going to shock himself for 2.
So he's got to have something. Well, he could just need the double red. Otherwise, I'm having trouble figuring out why he would choose to shock himself there. Because
Is that a
he
Stone
definitely
Breath
has
Dragon that
plenty
he
of mana.
has that he's hiding from us there? It's hard to tell.
Just to remind everyone at home, since Tajik isn't a card that I'm sure a lot of us have seen recently, Tajik is a indestructible 2/2 for 2 red white, and he has Battalion. When he and at least 2 other creatures attack, he gets +5/+5 until end of turn. So assuming that the board stays the same and Will is able to play, I don't know, another Chandra's Phoenix, he could be getting in there for quite a bit on the next turn. So Ghor-Clan Rampager, it's going to get over for 4.
4 trample damage saves the Satyr, and gets in there for a total of 6 that turn, and plays Lukranos.
This game is definitely not looking good for Will.
Yeah, the issue with your game plan there is that this Lukranos can go monstrous for a lot right now and kill everything other than the
Right. Let's see here. How much
The
mana
total.
can Lee generate? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, untap, 3, 8, 9. So Kalukanos can monsters for 8.
Right.
That's huge.
Well, no. half that because it's double X.
Or yeah, he can have 8 extra mana. So
So
for
4.
monsters for 4, it still kills both Chandra's Phoenixes in the scenario I was just describing. And it looks like there are at least 2 Chain to the Rocks in Will Mitchell's sideboard, so I don't know how many of them he's running main. It could be none. Let's see here. Alright, so Will seems to be pretty deep in the tank here. This is not a very good situation for him to be in at all.
Right. He's staring down a Lukranos that can monstrous right now for 4, and whatever else Lee might be holding in his hand, and his outs seem to be quite a few. Tapping some mana here for
Spark Trooper.
Spark Trooper. That's large.
It is, however, monstrous is going to prevent him from. Well, he still gains the life if he chooses to fight the Spark Trooper, because the creature will deal the damage back to Plutonos as well. Alright, so
He's adding 8 mana to his mana pool by untapping the Nykthos with his Voyaging Satyr.
which is probably one of the more powerful things you can do with Nykthos in this format, definitely. You can just very quickly get an unreasonable amount of mana. Yeah, and it looks like Will Mitchell's just scooping it in.
And yeah,
He can still gain the life off the Spark Trooper from the fight from Pelucranos, but it's not going to be enough to make much of a difference. Let's look at some sideboards here. Will Mitchell has a Burning Earth, some Mizium Mortars, which I guess he could bring in. It seems a little awkward when your opponent's playing Pelucranos.
Possibly, but Mizium Mortars is one of those things that hits all the rampers. It's a way to get rid of the Sylvan Caryatid, and it's one of the few options he has if you can overload it.
Yeah.
To get rid of Sylvan Caryatid in the red-white deck, so it's reasonable.
It could hit like a stray Ghor-Clan Rampager if Lee just needs to play one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it randomly, I mean, you assume that Will's going to bring in all of the Chain to the Rocks that he has available to him.
Yes, definitely. I imagine he's also going to bring in those Boros Reckoners because that's just a big roadblock for creatures like Pelucranos. And I probably wouldn't be surprised. He has a pair of Fated Conflagration in his sideboard, which is the card that for 1 red will deal 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker, and if he casts it during his own turn, he's going to get to scry as well. And knowing that Lee plays both Polukranos and Xenagos, I think that card's probably pretty reasonable. It's a good answer to Polukranos. It's a good answer to Xenagos. It's a good answer to any other planeswalkers Lee might play. Pretty sure it kills every creature in Lee's deck except for if he's playing Arbor Colossus. Lee has some destructive revelries in his board. Nylea's Disciple, which is the one that gains you life for Devotion to Green.
Right.
It's probably going to bring that one in, even though this was not too aggressive to start from Will. At least Lee knows that the archetype that Will's playing, it's likely that he could be very dead very fast, so probably bring in any residual life gain. He also has some Gruul Charms, Rurik Thar, some Mistcutter Hydras, and Skylashers. So most of that seems geared more to be the control heavy kind of meta game.
Which makes sense if you think you're going to be favored in the aggro matchup, which you probably are most of the time. So we'll see how things work out after the sideboards and going to round 2. They're shuffling up now. Will's still making some changes, perhaps not happy with all of his sideboard options. But we shall see how that works going forward. For you guys who are listening out in the internet, we do have the chat box open, so if you guys want to talk with us, we can see you and answer questions as you ask them. We will hopefully be getting some action going here very shortly.
Your comments and feedback are much appreciated.
Absolutely. We're doing this for the first time, so anything that's going on that you want to see that could be better, please let us know. We will gladly take that information and run with it going forward. So. Lee is involved in a conversation with someone behind him as well as continuing to shuffle.
Yeah, you can also tweet questions at us at either at Seacastle Events, or you can tweet at either myself or Dusty. Both of our handles are just our names. So that's at Caleb Crotts, CALEBCROTTS, or at
DustyG013. And we will be glad to answer any questions that you might have. So.
Yeah, and be sure to tweet using the hashtag CCWednesdayMTG so we can go ahead and get some more people on the stream.
Absolutely. Looks like they're drawing their opening hands for game 2. Will we assume be on the play? Looks like he's looking at some lands, a couple burn spells. Certainly looks like a keepable hand from what I can see of it. Lee has a few lands. It's hard to see what else he might have. Plays his cards a little close to the vest. Got a Stomping Grounds coming in play tapped for Lee, and he ships the turn. Will's aggro deck is not playing many 1 and 2 drops, so it's just a straight burn deck.
Yeah, I'm assuming most of the 2 drops is going to be things like Searing Blood and Lightning Strike, maybe even some Boros Charms. I'd be surprised if he wasn't playing Boros Charm, honestly. Spell gives you a lot of return on your investment. So it looks like he has kept a slightly more reactive hand with things like Magma Jet, and I think I saw a War Leader's Helix in his hand as well. So it looks like his game plan for this is to just kill everything with fire and don't let Lee resolve any of his creatures, or don't let any of his creatures stick around, rather. Let's see if I can get the chat pulled up.
That does appear to be a strategy. Leela looks like he's on a little bit slower draw this time with no 2 drops. So.
And no 3rd land.
I don't think Lee's has.
Wait, oh yeah, no, he hasn't. Never mind.
Ash Zealot from Will, and now we're going to the 3rd turn for Lee. He's drawn his 3rd land, it appears, trying to decide if that's the one he wants to play. Nope, goes with a basic forest. And now he has a 2-drop, and it's Burning Emissary. So we could see the explosion that this deck is known for.
All right, so Burning Tree Emissary into that's Disciple of Xenagos, I do believe. I can't remember if that's the name of the card. It's the one that it enters, and your opponent can either Fanatic of Xenagos. My bad. It either enters with a +1/+1 counter, and it has trample, or it gets +1/+1 and haste until end of turn. So for now, or 4 now and then deal with the 3/3 for the rest of the game, or deal with that 4/4 for the rest of the game?
Well, pretty sure that making that guy a 3/3 is the correct option here for Will. We'll see if he's getting some counters put on him. Most of Will's removal is going to be based on the 3/3. So he is paying the tribute and making that guy a 4/4. So a little unexpected. Can we tell if
All right, so that at least makes sure
well, he does have
a
Voiders
Warriors
Helix,
Helix.
so I think
Right.
that's probably what
That's
his
probably the
thought
better play.
process
He's
is.
just not wanting to take a bunch of damage this turn. And we'll see if that ends up paying out for him or not. The problem with having all these burn spells in hand is so many of Lee's threats are just completely out of reach of the burn spells. So
Yeah, I mean, most of these are going to have to go to the dome. Here we see an awkward attack, and this is pretty much just begging to be taken here because you.
the double block. All
Double
right,
block's a
so
little exciting. So he's got mana up. We're assuming that we're going to kill the 4/4 here
right.
with some sort of burn spell. That would be the most
So
likely.
should we have the Searing Blood? So, oh, so he could. I mean, either way, it's going to be a 2 for 2. It looks like.
No, that Ashdod has first strike. This is going to be a 1 for 2.
No, like
Nope.
it's still.
Oh,
The Ashdod still is going to end up trading with the Burning Tramisary after everything's said and done.
there you
I can't see the chat loading at all. Alright, so he's tapping 4 mana.
go. Looks like Xenagos is about to hit the board.
Alright, so we have another Xenagos. Probably going to make another Satyr and get in there for 4.
Seems likely into an open board.
Yeah.
See if we can even out these life totals now. Again, we're getting aggro on the draw here, but the board state is.
Looks like Will is stumbling on mana a little bit too, but he does have a Boros Reckoner now, so he can at least slow the game down, play it at his own pace at this point. Because there's not a lot Lee can do to just attack into that thing. Otherwise, he risks just basically wrecking his entire board.
Absolutely.
Alright, so it looks like we're going to have a Burning Tree into something here. This is the card Lee's holding there that he's thinking about playing.
So we tap some mana. We do have the Burning Tree, and now we're going to play a land for the turn. And taking up Xenagos to potentially get him out of some. And an Arbor Colossus.
Arbor
That's
Colossus. Yikes. So we're ticking up the Xenagos to add the 3 mana that we need on top of the Burning Tree to cast Arbor Colossus. This seems
Yes.
pretty solid. The thing is going to be very difficult for Will to deal with.
Yeah, 6/6 is way out of burn range generally.
Right.
For most,
Basically,
especially when he missed his last land drop. So now he's behind on lands.
I guess his outs here are drawing those Chain to the Rocks, assuming he brought them in. And yeah, I see no reason for him to not block the Boros with Boros Reckoner there. I guess there could be this core plan, but then okay, so now we get to do some really
Now we have a way to get rid of the Arbor Colossus.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, if Lee wants to give us an out, he can give us an out. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I mean, I guess it does protect most of Lee's board, but I think giving your opponent a way to just.
Well, Will's definitely taking 5, and now he's got 6 points of damage to send in some direction, assuming he doesn't miss his trigger. And he just sent it to Lee's dome.
Ooh,
Did he only deal
well,
3?
It should have been. Right. Well, it only deals the 3 damage because of the trample.
Right. Okay.
Never mind.
Yep. Redirected. No.
All right. So Lee's at 8. Is there a way we're not just dead here? Alright, So
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
yeah,
He's not tapped out, so could have some.
yeah.
There we go. So
All
scooping
the
them up.
4 drops.
Yeah, all the 4 drops.
And there's the
And-
Faded
and-
Conflagration that he brought in as well.
And one of the chain rocks as he flips cards off the top of his library. So a very quick round 1 here. We're probably going to try to get another
Round on camera as soon
another
as we
round on
can.
camera as soon as possible. So there we are.
It was a quick lightning strike to the face. It looked like, I'm not sure if that matchup is necessarily as in favor of red-green as it appeared to be in that game. Those looks like some questionable keeps from Will maybe, but also some very suboptimal draws. Like at any point, if he had drawn like a Chain to the Rockslide, Arbor Colossus, and then in game 1 as well, I feel like a Searing Blood instead of the Chandra's Phoenix, Searing Blood killing it deals the damage, right? It's not loses life, so it's 2 damage to the creature and then 3 damage to the creature's controller. So he could have killed the Satyr, redirected the damage to the Xenagos, and
Absolutely.
probably been in a slightly more reasonable situation in game 1 that he might have been able to draw his way out of.
Right.
But it is definitely a difficult matchup when your opponent's playing 5/5s and 6/6s, and you're playing spells that deal 3, maybe 4 damage at best, and not all of it can even be redirected to the creatures. It's just really not a lot red white burn can do.
The mana efficiency that you get in the green red monsters deck is so far ahead of what red can do. It outclasses red's burn so very quickly that
Oh, absolutely.
you kind of have to be very aggressive with your mulliganing if you in the second and third games.
Have to have some very wonderful draws
Right.
as well, and then randomly things like Sylvan Caryatid are just huge roadblocks all of a sudden. Like except for maybe Will's deck looked like it was not playing as many of the low drop, quick, efficient creatures as some of the lists might play. So if it's focused more on burn, maybe we're just ignoring the Caryatid anyway. But it is a little annoying that your opponent's getting a turn ahead and there's really nothing you can do about it. But what's even more interesting is I think some of those draws could have been even more explosive for Lee. As we saw, he had both Nykthos and Burning Tree Emissary in his deck. So as